What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion right here, right now, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Chocolate Sane, Arwin, Righteous Force, Paul, Anon Moto and 10th Man, together with, I believe, Ranty Flat Earth and Quantum Eraser in Skype and G+. Welcome.
Hello, hello.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. We're also joined by a whole bunch of people in Discord. So hello to everyone in Discord.
Good afternoon, Nathan.
Hello.
Howdy.
Howdy, howdy.
What's up, Discord?
Any signs of Earth curvature, Discord, or anybody else for that matter?
No.
No. No
Resounding
curvature.
no.
Signs of axial rotation in that case?
Nope.
No.
Stationary.
The evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth.
How would they know?
Let me down, Discord. Got to be some fundies in here. Any evidence of the presupposition itself, the R value, Earth radius, presumed to be spherical?
Nope.
Nope.
Anybody at all? Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Yes.
Non-force force.
Oh, I heard a yes. Hold on, I heard a yes. Who said yes?
That was me, but I was bullshit.
Oh, pretender pounds. Bastard. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure?
Cheese.
Oh, here we go. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
No.
Don't think so.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Not any measured ones.
Has to be a thing first before you can figure out a distance.
Definitely.
Does
What
astral
makes you-
projection count?
What makes you think?
Oh, go on.
What makes you think they could measure distances to the sun when they got the first 5 questions wrong?
I definitely don't expect them to give that, but one day someone will step in and give us part of the mathematics which they think they understand, and will point out where their presuppositions come into play. I think that's it. Is that the conclusion? I'll add one just for Quantum Eraser. Any evidence of a vacuum without a container?
I love that one.
No? Something for the fundies to go out and try and demonstrate? We'd like to see a vacuum without a container. That's what we'd like to see.
Oh, is it even theoretically possible?
No, Arwin, no. It's
No.
claimed to be our sky, though.
Beyond for
After pointing out
actual-
no, I just want to add
volume
on.
to be perfectly devoid of matter altogether.
Yeah, well,
Is
it's not
that possible?
possible. I just want to strap something on to the end of that. It's also claimed to be our sky, Arwin. So no, definitely not possible, but also claimed to be the sky. Interesting, eh?
Indeed, just walk outside. But anyway, I wonder if there is any kind of theoretical evidence even that space or a volume can be absolutely perfectly devoid of any sort of matter entirely, if that is even theoretically possible.
I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be.
But-
Theoretically, I could be a Super Saiyan.
But not that theoretical.
I mean, you
But
can't even.
you're asking.
As soon as you invoke that word, that's what comes up. You know, it's
But
like, well, theoretically, anything is possible, right? By that respect, but it's not.
Maybe you don't
a
appreciate.
scientific
No, but
theory.
my point is that a vacuum is the idea of the missing of filler gas. But what would there be if there was nothing filling it up?
Nothing.
Like,
So I just want to get this in. Maybe you
is
don't
that even
appreciate.
possible?
Maybe you don't appreciate just how devoid of stuff 10 to the minus 17 Tor is. There's going to be huge areas of absolutely nothing in that 10 to the minus 17 Tor claimed to be vacuum of the sky. That you maybe don't appreciate just how devoid of stuff that is.
Right, but could it not be possible to view it in another fashion and just say that that gas that would be left in there would actually be filling it up? That it would just spread out? That, well, the idea of the molecule may have been an overestimation in the first place.
Would still be
That it can actually spread out because of the low pressure.
Even if you carry on the idea of us having this gas pressure we do definitely have and all breathe, dispersing into what they claim is the vacuum of the sky, given the quantity, ever increasing I might add, of the sky vacuum, it would still be at 10 to the minus 17 Tor if every single bit of gas dissipated and every bit of water turned instantaneously into gas and also filled that sky vacuum. It would still be at 10 to the minus 17 Tor based on their mathematics of the size itself. It's so infinitely vast, it wouldn't even make a dent. And it would disappear instantaneously into that sky vacuum, I might add. You know, it wouldn't be like we'd slowly see the gas seeping into the sky and have time to go, oh no, there's a sky vacuum. No. It would be absolutely instantaneous. And it wouldn't make a dent in the amount of volume they claim it is.
Absolutely. I was just trying to wander off in physics specifics. Just the idea that molecules bounce around is like one way to conceptualize it, but could it be slightly different in nature and that the molecules actually expand and become, well,
Do you mean the
the way they
molecules
are?
themselves, or do you mean them in relation to each other? Do you physically mean the molecule itself gets bigger, or do you mean that the space between them gets larger?
Well, maybe the molecule does get bigger.
That's what I thought you meant. No, the amount of space that they will occupy will always be the amount of space it can occupy, and the amount of gas is just going to be evenly distributed. Not evenly, because that's incorrect terminology, but, you know, it's going to fill the available volume.
I understand that's based on the unit principle. I'm just trying to figure out, could it be slightly different? Could it not be molecule here and a lot of not molecule there? Could it be that it actually does kind of expand because of the lack of pressure?
That's the bullshit they assert, isn't it? Bloody roaming gas. Just roaming around in the sky vacuum. Yeah, that's the bullshit they assert.
What? No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
No,
they do.
I'm trying something completely new here. No, this does not tie in with the idea of a sky vacuum. This is separate. This is just my conceptualization of what low pressure actually is.
Sure,
What that gas is doing.
but they do have that in their
now
narrative.
Conceptualized as molecules bouncing randomly in all directions. That's one way to approach it, and I already conceded earlier on that model works well. But could it be different? That's what I'm
No,
wondering.
It's not a
it's just claimed to be
It's
different.
just less stuff.
Oh, absolutely. It doesn't
when you
detract
have a
from that.
vacuum,
But that all still stands.
a vacuum,
okay?
all you're doing is moving one substance from one place to another, really. That's all you're doing. Like if I put a vacuum pump on a chamber, I just move what's in that chamber to outside the chamber.
Yeah.
So you can't make things disappear. It's just basically moving one thing from one place to another place.
Right. I'm simply
But you still
asking
need a
now
container.
a new question about what that thing really is, because I'm not denying that at all. I'm just saying maybe the approach to
What
how
thing are
we
you talking about?
conceptualize it could be different. Just
But
wandering around.
get back to the vacuum chamber without a chamber, right? The NASA vacuum chamber up there at Plumbrook Station in Sandusky, Ohio, they can get that vacuum chamber down to 10 to the minus 6 torr, right? That's roughly in the vicinity of where the ISS is, right? The chamber is an aluminum encased by 8 feet of reinforced concrete. That's what they need. The doors are 5 million pounds each, and they must be driven into place. So, what was that little story? If we just flip this, if we just make it inverse with the ISS and the hole that was in there, and somebody plugged it with their finger, right? You frigging clowns.
I'm pretty sure no. Are you sure I'm pretty sure the ISS walls are the same as that vacuum chamber on Earth, and that guy's finger was at least 8 foot long, wasn't it?
It had to be. Because it has to be.
But we don't look. Just remember, we don't really have to work at the what is level. Really is level.
The really is. Not necessarily.
We can work at the CD cover artwork level, and that's good enough for most people.
I do work with vacuum pumps in refrigeration, and we get it down to about just over 29 inches of vacuum, which is inversely almost the same as almost 30 pounds of pressure, but negatively. But you can put your finger on a 29 inches of vacuum, and it's not going to blow your finger off.
Well, that pisses on our
What's that?
bonfire.
What's that for?
That pisses on our bonfire, eh?
What's that in torr, please?
I'm not sure. I just know we can only get down to 29 point. You can't pull 30-inch vacuum because that's theoretically the perfect vacuum. So what minus 17 Thor is, I have no idea, but it's going to be between 29 and 30 inches of mercury.
Go ahead and convert it.
Well, just a play on words. If it won't suck your finger out, it might tore your finger out.
Hold on a second. Go ahead and convert that, because you ain't getting anywhere in the near vicinity of the vacuum of that. You're not even getting anywhere near 10 to the negative 6 torr with your little vacuum there.
Yeah, but a perfect vacuum is 30. Like, I'm not arguing against you. I'm just saying 30 inches of vacuum is a theoretical perfect vacuum, which space cannot even achieve, according to them.
No, you need to get the units of measure right. So go convert those units of measure and then come back. Come back and tell us. We're working in
John,
value.
How thick you said those doors were for the vacuum chamber, NASA's vacuum chamber?
Well, the whole chamber is encased by 8 feet of reinforced concrete. It's aluminum shelled, so the doors have to be at least 8 feet in depth.
Interesting when you hear astronauts talking about walls being as thick as 3 sheets of Reynolds wrap. Yeah. That's adorable.
Wasn't there a story from NASA where there was a small pin-sized hole, and they use bubble gum to plug it.
It was a finger.
Yeah, but didn't they put something else there after the finger?
Finger in the dike.
No,
Yeah,
I mean
they're
after they gave us the finger. Didn't they put something in there?
Yeah, they're Johnson. And then Nathan asked, "Well, what happens if that were the case? Is it a blow or a suck job?"
No.
What happened to the show?
To what? What?
No, let's move on.
I would quite like to assess or have general opinions on people's thoughts on what is called, incorrectly in my opinion, the flat earth community. In other words, what are your general thoughts on the state of flat earth when that idea of flat earthism is reified into a group or a thing? Just your general attitudes towards it as it stands in 2019. Any takers?
Yeah, I'll take it. There's a lot of people who talk about subjects without the proper investigation on their own. So that would make up part of that group. And then there's people who believe they've done all the background checks, and then they come out and say words, and they have citations, sources, etc. And there's a great divide between just those two reference points of those two types of people that make up the so-called flat earth community, let alone personality types and the way people argue and don't argue, listen and don't listen. So is there a flat earth community to 10th man? No. There's variations of a statement that a lot of people will share in different ways. I've argued with flat earthers. It's like, what? What do you mean? How do you prove that? You can't say that. And so they just go off the rails rather than sticking tight to the solid proofs and evidence that would back up a flat earth. So in a comparison, I would say I've been reading the Bible for 45 years, and I run into a lot of people who claim to be Christians and they violate and contradict the Bible. It's the same thing.
I've got the info on the vacuum that I think Cork was talking about.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. So, when you're talking vacuum, when you say you can pull it to, say, 29 inches of mercury below, that means that it's the standard atmospheric pressure is 29.92 inches of mercury. So if you can pull it to 29 below, that means you're looking at 0.5 to 0.7 or something like that inches of mercury, which is like 10 torr to maybe 100 torr. So like at best you could get maybe say 10 torr, but the ISS is supposed to be in that vacuum chamber in NASA is 10 to the power -6, so it's like 0.00001 torr, really small. Whereas the vacuum you're working with can get down to maybe, looks to be like 10 torr or so, or 100 torr. Yeah. So
I'm glad you did that. Thank you, Earth-shaped investigator. So,
yeah.
Okay, now you've had your I see why you were abrupt or grumpy or whatever you want to phrase it as, QE, to get that qualified or get that converted. So yeah, we're talking many factors higher torr value.
Orders of magnitude
That's the
higher.
one.
And I wasn't grumpy. Does this mic make me sound grumpy?
I used the wrong word, not grumpy, abrupt.
Grumpy.
Abrupt, because it's a point that on the surface, if you don't qualify these values, it's like, oh right, so you can easily defy a vacuum. Well, no, in that instance you can, but it's orders of magnitude less powerful if you want to define a vacuum as having power, the power of suck, right? No, I understand it's not.
And it does say 30 inches of mercury is considered an effectively perfect vacuum, which we can never achieve. So what's 30 inches to torr?
No, so when you using the calculator, when you get to 30 inches below, that means it's like, yeah, a perfect vacuum because it's basically 0 tall. But obviously, that's just the scale they use in this vacuum type conversion. So because it's relative to atmospheric pressure, so it basically is going to 0 atmospheric pressure. That means where the mercury doesn't register any pressure or something like that. But realistically, that range of 29 below to 30 below, that's where the values start really. When you convert it to torr, it gets a bit harder because it goes from like 10 torr to like really 10 to the power minus 6, 10 to the power minus 17, as they say in space. So it's a bit of a practical measurement for people working with vacuums, but it's not an absolute measure of the pressure itself, so it's a bit hard to convert. But I did find a converter. I'll put it in the Discord chat.
Yeah, all right, thanks for that. So the only thing I was saying was when I pull a vacuum, say 29, just over 29 inches, and if it's just like a little pinhole, you can put your finger on a 29-inch vacuum and it's not, it'll give you a little red mark. But I mean, if you had a hole the size of your body, well, that's a different story because, you have more area per square inch that would be negatively pulling on you. But if, a pinhole, it's not going to suck them through the pinhole is all I'm saying.
Yeah, but the ISS would be, based on rough calculations, would be 100 times to 1,000,000 times lower pressure than that particular pinhole or whatever. It's like 100 times less
Says
pressure,
who?
or even 1,000,000 times, yeah.
Who says this?
Oh, wait a second. According to their story, that says who. They say.
Yeah.
We're not for 1 second. We're not for 1 second arguing that the sky is a vacuum. We're just pointing out what their narrative is. So, shout out to Flatulent Unicorn who says, "Smash the super chat or be sphere." Thank you very much for the super chat, Flatulent Unicorn. I'm glad we rounded that point out because it means I can segue back onto us talking about the state of affairs in flat Earth generally in 2019. Any other takers? I know 10th Man's put his 2 pennyworth in. I thought more people would be fighting to talk about this. Obviously not.
It is tough. It is tough, especially with family. Some family members will think you're just freaking crazy. And so you can't just talk. You can't talk about it with some people. It's such a
I'll say something before I leave. What I noticed is, even though we're winning the arguments, the censorship is counteracting that a little bit, and that's about what I say.
Yeah, they have to, especially because these arguments aren't going anywhere for the globe anymore. So,
like Red Pill says, corporate welfare has to step in and save them.
Pretty much.
If I understood Nathan's initial question, it was within the flat Earth community of flat Earthers, not the opposition.
Wait, how do flat Earthers feel about flat Earthers? I don't really.
Nathan, readdress your question.
I don't really get it.
Sorry, did you ask me to do something?
Yeah. Your initial question about the flat Earth community, I took it as within the confines of flat Earthers and what they say about each other or the different directions they might be going with arguments, etc. You weren't asking the question about the opposition and flat Earthers, right? You were just talking about flat Earthers.
Yeah, I was hoping for people to just sort of sum up how they perceive the topic, or how the public perceives the topic. So rather than the opposing arguments or our arguments, just what's the general state of affairs within this subject matter. So yeah, I was expecting people to talk a little bit about censorship, and I don't want to lead anybody in what they talk about next, but I've got a few ideas that I thought people would talk about. Another shout out to Flatulent Unicorn, who sends me a unicorn sticker. Very nice.
Oh, then my My bad. I
Well,
thought
among
you
the
were asking about what within the flat Earth, is there such a thing as a flat Earth community, and how do they view each other? I thought that was the question.
Then that was just my spin of what I see it as, because I don't necessarily see it as being a community. It's just it's not a group of people. It's lots of individuals doing their own thing.
Shout out to Slick Johnson. I don't belong to a community.
Well, I'd agree with
I
you.
do find you do, like, you know how you argue with half globetards that just spout out information without even knowing what they're saying. I do find that those type of personalities are in the flat earth community a little bit. You know, you have some people believing the sun's actually local in the clouds. You know, you had a lot of the flat earthers saying the sun's in the clouds, like 20 miles from their view. And they just start spouting that out without even really thinking about what they're saying. So you do get those kind of personalities on the opposite side of the board, you know what I mean? Just flat earthers spouting out ideas without any proof. That happens as well in the flat earth community.
Yeah, I certainly.
You're definitely right. We hear that a lot, but try not to do that crap over here. No necessity, to be honest. I mean, I get people speculating, but let's stick with what we can prove, man. You know, especially if we're talking about proof, then let's stick with what we can prove. Like, you know.
No, I do hear on this channel quite a bit too. The Van Allen radiation belt mentioned. Do you guys believe there is a Van Allen radiation?
Van Halen radiation belts. Those aren't talked about here.
The Van Allen radiation belt.
Yeah, the Van Halen.
Where?
Van Halen radiation belts.
I like that one.
Is there a Van Allen belt? Do you guys believe? I hear you guys mention it. Do you believe there is?
Dance the night
away.
I
don't. The only time I ever mention it is when I mention the double speak of the astronauts. I'm sorry, somebody
had a
talking?
taker. So was that?
Yeah, Nathan's talking to you. Hold on, Nathan. Can you hear Nathan?
My God,
when he's
I'm getting rumpus by John telling off bloody chocolate. So I heard Anon say yes or no. I couldn't make it out, but something in regards to Van Allen radiation belts. Was that a no or a yes? I'm so glad I cleared the airwaves.
Yeah, come on.
Well, I was just going to add that whenever I've ever spoken about the Van Allen radiation belts, it's to point out the double speak of astronauts saying, you know, with some of them saying, oh yeah, we didn't know about them, you know, when we went through them, and then other astronauts saying, oh no, we just, you know, we went really fast and it didn't affect us. You know, whether they're up there or not, that's beyond me, because, you know, I don't know. But that's the only time I have myself bring it up.
No, that's true. How their double speaks crazy, but Van Allen, it was supposed to be the first satellite sent into space. That's when they detected these Van Allen belts. So for the flat Earth community, not saying you guys, to always mention the Van Allen belts, but they don't believe in satellites, that's a contradiction, because if you look up how they actually detected it, it was the first satellite sent to the space.
You mean the medium that doesn't exist, so they got us arguing about Van Allen?
Right, there you go. The reason you got silence out of me and QE was for the same reason. I'm going to speak for him, hope he doesn't mind. We were waiting for the assertion. So you said space. So it depends on the qualification that comes along with the claim. So if what you're talking about in terms of Van Allen is an area claimed to be a vacuum, then that part of the narrative debunks the claim of it being in existence in the first instance, if it's claimed to be in the vacuum of the sky. claim to be around a presupposed sphere, same thing applies. It just depends on what you assert. So you claim that the proof came from satellites in space. Well, that would be the point that you take apart the assertion. Do I know if there are something that it has been named bloody radiation belts with Van Allen as the actual name? Well, I don't know if that's real or not. I have no idea. I don't know what's in the sky. Now, the fact that they claim it depends on what comes alongside that claim in terms of what you pull apart, right? But whether or not there are some belts of radiation, I don't know.
The fact that the astronauts don't even know it was there, as Chocolate alluded to, says a lot, doesn't it?
I've got something I just was playing around with while we're talking about gas pressure. I don't know if you can see my screen.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got you presented.
Okay. It says this, the spacesuits of the astronauts are at 4.3 pounds per square inch, right? Well, I was thinking about that. What do you think that does to the boiling point of water and what are we mostly made of? What do you think that reduction in pressure would do to water in the system? Anybody have any clue? Well, obviously, silence says probably not. Well, there's this little calculator here, the boiling point of calculator. If you put something in 4.3 psi of water or of pressure, the boiling point becomes like 154 degrees. I wonder if there's any biological issues that might start occurring if that happens.
Wait, you said that the suits are at 4.3? That's what you said?
Well, that's what NASA says. The suits were pressurized at 4.3 psi. Okay.
Really?
Yeah, that's what they say. I've got it up on screen now. This is from NASA. Well, if you take
so that's
boiling,
basically almost a quarter of atmospheric pressure. Is that right?
right?
4.3 psi
Right.
is 0.3 atm, almost a third or so.
Less, yeah, probably even less than almost. Well, yeah, something like that.
Hold on. So from the chat, Philip Cooper says 3.2 psi is the minimum for a lunar suit.
I know, but look at the boiling point of water. I mean, so I would think they're so close that there's some biological problems would start occurring in the body. You would think. Now, if we took it down to, you said the lowest point was
how
how much?
would they on the moon and in this
3.2.
Reduced pressure?
You said 3.2. Okay, so
Correct.
the lowest point. Oh,
Is
we take
it
down even
absolute
more, so.
pressure?
Do what? Say that again.
What pressure are they referring to? The absolute pressure or plus atmospheric
That's a good
pressure?
question. Right? I don't know if it says absolute pressure. It just says, yeah, it just says 4.3 pounds per square inch.
Does the rest of that matter where it says oxygen, 100% oxygen instead of 20% oxygen? Would that make a difference? I have no idea.
Well, if you reduce the pressure, obviously that means there's less molecules to bounce around inside the suit. And if you have more, and most of our air is made up of nitrogen, technically, I guess the astronaut could technically suffocate. But that's not what I'm thinking about. I mean, just look at even at 3.2 psi, look at the boiling point of water. It's 42 degrees. So for any reason, if he reaches anything close to that, I mean, if you put something on the stove before it starts to even boil on the stove, before it even reaches the boiling point, gas starts to form, starts to steam off of it. So think about that for a second. Human body. Think about the human body.
Well, what's the temperatures supposedly in the thermosphere where they're at?
Well, there you go. There's another problem because it's supposed to be like 200 and 300 in the sun and then so much in the shade. So the surface of the spacesuit would be hot. So
How come the Tesla
I want to know the
convertible
cooling
didn't have the
system they have in
dashboard
that
and the
suit and the
tires
heat
melting off?
system.
I didn't catch that, Tim.
I said, oh, Was I talking over someone?
No, somebody else was talking. I didn't catch it.
I was saying, how come the Tesla convertible, the dashboard and the tires and the paint weren't melting off?
Well, that's a good point.
But they use the excuse that particles are so far apart you can't convect, which has been debunked.
Yeah, but you have the actual car. Isn't that a big particle?
Yeah,
Well, the
and you
medium
got
to
the
convect. I know it's.
Who cares
Actually, I
about
was
the
thinking real quick. Oh, sorry. Are you done about the
No,
suit?
no, I was going to answer to your thing. Who cares
I
about
got one
the
point on
pseudo response we get of they're far apart when you got a car that all the particles are a part of? It's just okay, they're all going to go there.
Yeah, I know it's retarded.
Yeah, so I'm looking up wiki, and yeah, it does say that the actual absolute pressure of the spacesuit using pure oxygen is about that say 4.7 to 3 psi of oxygen. So if there's only oxygen, it's at that pressure, and they say that's because it's they're breathing pure oxygen, so it can be at a much lower pressure. But their whole body is in this 1/3 of actual normal experience pressure, plus they're breathing 100% oxygen. So yeah, go figure. Not to mention the temperature.
But you also run into another problem. There's other gases in the system in your body. So if you reduce the gas pressure or the pressure within the system, the body, the other gases will start. Just like you open up a can of Coke, the pressure releases, and the gases inside the body would start releasing as well. You have another problem there as well because you've just reduced the pressure.
Yeah, I mean, they'd have to really demonstrate in a lab or something that humans, living in this sort of kind of, conditions in the pure oxygen and all that. And like you say, yeah, without all kinds of crazy stuff going with your body because of all kinds of gases, including methane or whatever in your intestines or who knows what, sulfur.
Okay, so you see what's happening here, right? They can't even show Earth-based Coriolis 2 reference frames. And now we're talking about spacesuits in space that doesn't exist the way they say it and how gas and air would work. You see what they do? This is what they do all the time. Just show me the Earth spinning, rotating, and you could win the argument with your spacesuits then. But until then, it's all a misdirection for us to talk about that.
Actually, my brother-in-law just walked up to me and mentioned something about the pressure inside the eye. So imagine if you started reducing the pressure on outside the eye, what would happen? Because there's pressure inside the fluid inside the eye. More problems, folks. I have to look. I'll break this down a little bit more. I have to look at it.
I have grandchildren, and I'm watching them learn how to walk. They're learning balance. Their sensory systems are aiding them. They know when they're toppling, they kind of put their arms out to gain balance. So eventually, that grandchild's going to walk and realize what balance is. So now you're telling me that I've got those sensory perceptors and I don't sense the earth moving? I don't see with my eyes a horizon line that's curved? They're trying to get us to deny the two senses that we have.
Man, it's just so big and it's moving so fast that you're just not going to feel it. That's it, buddy.
Can't let that slide, I'm afraid, 10th man. Can't bite Dawn's head off. That I don't see a horizon that curves. I wouldn't care if you did. What's the horizon?
Right. No, I agree. But I'm just saying when you look out and they say they see a curve, I said, where? I'm looking out. I don't see a curve. I mean, I'm talking about that, not the actual or the apparent horizon where the sky supposedly meets the ground. Give me a break.
Yeah, but that is what they're talking about. And when you say you don't see it curving, you mean the horizon. You're not going to weasel out of this. I didn't let Dawn weasel out of it. But we're reifying it too when we say, well, we don't see any curvature when we rise in altitude. Well, what you actually mean is you don't see the horizon bend. Well, so what?
Well, let's stay on this for a minute. What do my eyes tell me?
Eat that cake? I don't know. What are you looking at?
Okay.
It's flat.
Okay, so my eyes, when I go to a lumber yard, and I remember Chocolate saying he used to work at a lumber yard. Chocolate, you know how sometimes the wooden boards, whether they're sheets of wood or 2x4s, they're bent and you don't want to buy those, so you look for the straight ones, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So do we use our toes or do we use our eyes for that?
I think we use our eyes.
Thank you.
Yeah, but you're looking down the length of the piece of wood. Now, if I was to describe my visual experience from an aeroplane, I'd describe the ground beneath me and how it expands out, not the horizon. But when you say you see
agree.
but you're saying I see no curvature, and I hear so many flat earthers arguing about the horizon and what it should or shouldn't do.
When I say I see no curvature, am I just looking at air or am I looking at the ground as contrast to air with it? The whole thing.
Fair
what
enough.
am I looking at?
I'm holding you to an account that you shouldn't be because of Dawn on the last show. My bad.
No, it's good. I'm glad we went through it because reality to me, it's like you have to prove it. Someone else has to experience. They say, "Hey, touch this thing; it's hot." And when that person touches it, and they said, "No, it's not. It's not hot." So, well, hang on. Then I go touch it; and it's hot. And then someone else touches it, and it's not hot. Well, something's wrong there. But when two people touch the same thing and they both say it's hot, more than likely it's hot.
No, so two people touch something and then it's hot, and then a third person comes over and say, "Hey guys, that thing you touched that was hot. It's actually cold." and you're supposed to believe that person.
I would believe the guy that said...
That's the joke that we're living in.
I would believe the guy that said, "Be careful of that, it's exothermic."
It sounds like, what was George said, a thermos without a lid or something? What did he say about a thermos? It's like,
a closed thermos is an open system.
Yeah.
I like it.
That's too funny.
These Globetrotters keep putting nonsense in my brain, and I keep remembering it. I can't forget this nonsense, like shoes a phenomenon, and of course, air is not the atmosphere. What else we got?
Accelerated coffee cups.
Oh, yes.
Hang gliders a powered flight.
Yep. Hang gliders, powered flight. It's wonderful. You got to go up to space to start seeing a deviation. It's like...
one of my all-time favorites was when Rumpus at the equator said when he was walking, he was experiencing Coriolis.
Do you want to add something, Cork? Did you want to add something?
I doubt he's ever been to the equator.
Want to add something?
Well, I was going to add something on a different...
Yeah, go ahead.
I was looking at... I think I found another... proof to debunk the whole moon mission. I was looking at my neighbor's flagpole the other day, and I noticed the deterioration rate of the flag from the sun's radiation. You know, the thing's 2 years old and it's almost disintegrated. And I'm in Northern Ontario, Canada, so we don't, it's not exposed to light 365 days, 24 hours a day. So I looked up where NASA got their flag. And if you read in their article, someone come up with the idea, it was a couple weeks before takeoff. They actually went to Sears and bought the flag from Sears, gave it to the astronauts and said, "This will be a good thing, plant our flag, blah, blah, blah." So I'm thinking, what kind of flag do they have in 365 days of 24 hours sun that the radiation wouldn't disintegrate that material within days because there's supposedly no radiation.
24 hours.
Nah, second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the Earth. That flag's fine. You're completely wrong.
Yeah, don't worry. The sun decreases entropy, so don't worry.
Oh God! Right, I've got two of these people now. I've got a QE. Please, can you correct your nonsense? And then Chocolate, can you correct yours? The sarcasm, my audience could do without.
But literally, if someone could figure out the decay rate of material, that flag would be dust in like a week.
Hold on. I've got QE telling my audience the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to Earth, and bloody Chocolate saying that entropy will decrease as you get further away from the sun. Right, I know these are bullshit baller narratives that you're being sarcastic about, right? But I want the concise rebuttal to it as well, not just the sarcasm. So QE first, please. You put that shit out there. Now you can clean it up.
I'm eating breakfast. Do I need to do it now?
You can't throw shit in this show and then just run away. No, you sort it out. Breakfast, my ass. The audience now thinks that the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to Earth because you've just said that.
Most of your audience doesn't know what the second law of thermodynamics is.
Don't condescend my audience. They're all very intelligent people, apart from the fundies.
All right. The reason why I said it is because the Rumpus and a few other knuckleheads said that the second law doesn't apply to the Earth, right? So there's no deterioration. There's no entropy increase on the Earth. And in fact, they said the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the Earth, but then there's localized decreases in entropy brought up by the sun, which is so moronic. It's language can barely encapsulate the stupidity of those two statements. So is that good?
Yeah, that's good enough. So yeah, your cup of coffee would debunk that the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply when you watch it get cold, and the sun is a certified entropy generator. It's increasing entropy, there is no doubt. These people are crown munchers. Moving on to Chocolate. Right, Chocolate, what was your nonsense that you spewed into the rumpusing?
Well, I mean, like I was quoting Rumpus was saying, the sun decreases entropy, which is obviously nonsense. Like John just said, like he usually says, it's the greatest entropy source that we have. So yeah, it's nonsense to say that
it's the greatest entropy generator the world has ever seen.
Sure, it was different nonsense. I thought you were referring to the fact that in their narrative, the sun, as you get further away from it, increases in temperature.
Oh no! I just said that the sun decreases entropy.
Sure, it was a rumpus. It was a second highlight. You were both highlighting nonsense from Rumpus.
It's one of the most recent nonsenses. So yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm sure Cork's really grateful that we had to unpack all that garbage. So shout out to Flatulent Unicorn. Flat is a shape. Brenda, that's in quotes. It's an aspect. No, okay, sorry, Cork. I'm really sorry all that had to be done. Feel free to continue.
Yeah, so how long would that flag actually before it broke down into dust?
Where's the flag?
On the moon. It's not, but
no, the moon flag.
Oh, that flag. That's on the moon.
Yeah, if the flag was on the moon, in the radiation of the sun, 365 days, 24 hours a day.
This is going to be why flat earthers absolutely hate me. So, okay, yeah, I appreciate your argument, and while it could be deemed a valid argument, your argument begs the question that the moon is somewhere you can travel to, and it potentially has a moon, and you're only unpacking whether or not the moon would survive on that surface that we can travel to through a second law of thermodynamics violation to plant the flag, but we're only arguing about whether or not the flag would survive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Before you even get to the...
We know a flag will deteriorate from the radiation of the sun.
Yeah, I understand your
argument.
argument.
Just, if they had the flag on the moon, as they say they do, that flag could not survive.
There's my problem, though. That bit that you added on the end, if the flag is there like they say it is, well, you're immediately affirming part of the argument we brace against. So before you even get to the flag, the journey, forget even the landing or what they say the moon is, the journey couldn't have taken place in the first place because it claimed to have took place in a second law of thermodynamics violation called outer space, known as a vacuum, the sky vacuum, right? Well, therefore you don't need to get anywhere near that. And in doing so, this is why I'm saying, I started by saying this is why people hate me. Because as far as you're concerned, well, what a perfectly reasonable way of debunking that there's not a flag on the moon. But the words flag on the moon buys into their argument. And that's the bit that I'm kind of attacking you on. And I'm apologising for it, if that makes sense.
I can answer these questions. It's real simple. It was like the song says, space might be the final frontier, but it was filmed in a Hollywood basement. So the flag is in the basement.
Right on. The journey didn't take place. The moon isn't a rock you can travel to. It's all bollocks. But if you're into if it was on a rock in the sky that you can travel to, then the flag wouldn't survive. That's kind of, in most instances and most parts of that argument, actually working against us. I'm sorry.
And also,
and even if we wanted to answer that question honestly, we would need the same environment and manipulate that and test it out for ourselves.
Also, when was the last time the picture of the flag was actually shown? Because every time they try to show me a picture of the flag, it's basically some grainy piece of shit picture, and there's a dark pixel, and they're like, "That's the flag."
What they tend to do is they tend to get people with a high level of computer technology to analyse it. So the last time I saw this being discussed was by NVIDIA. So they're a graphics card manufacturer, graphics chip manufacturer. And what they were doing, this is in 2014, maybe 15, they were describing how what is now RTX technology, ray tracing technology, would function. And what they used to demonstrate it was their graphics ray tracing proving the moon landings happened with the pictures of the moon and the flag and all that crap. And they used ray tracing. So in other words, they're saying, look how good our graphics card is with computer-generated whatevers. We proved the been to the moon. That's basically how they did it. And I've seen that kind of various iterations of that done over the years. You know, they might have somebody on bloody Mythbusters doing a similar thing and saying, look how we've analysed it and these are the lighting angles, and you know, that's how they typically do it. They'll analyse it with mathematics and to prove that it's real.
Yeah, but what I was trying to say is that what they were doing is trying to replicate old pictures. I'm saying there is no new picture. Like the newest pictures from the 60s. So, I mean, even
Can I just interrupt with a question? There's discussion in the live stream text thing, and they're saying that you don't understand what the second law of thermodynamics is and how the sun reacts to that. Could you just clarify your point, Nathan, just so we can see what you're saying? And I'm a flat earther, by the way, and just to answer these guys in the live stream text chat, please.
The second law of thermodynamics is entropy. Entropy increase would be the gas filling the available volume of a sky vacuum. Entropy would increase, that is the second law of thermodynamics. That would be what would happen to the gas. Entropy doesn't just halt and stop at some demarcation point that they write on a whiteboard. That's not how thermodynamics works. Entropy increase, that's what would happen. The gas would fill the space.
Wiggles 2019. What's up, Chad, by the way?
Yeah, I agree with you. Zanuck just says entropy is not gas filling the volume. I think that's statement.
So his assertion is gas does not fill the available volume. Yeah, it does.
Entropy is not gas is filling the volume. And entropy is basically the heat law.
Xanax is a retard. That's the second law is clown.
Don't rumpus him. Hold on. I want to hear him. Can I just hear Zanuck?
The usable energy of a system goes down with time. The total energy doesn't change. The usable energy of a system goes down with time. That's what entropy.
Who cares? Who cares, you clown?
People always mock what they don't understand.
Who cares? So tell us about
People
the second
care
law of
about- people care
thermodynamics,
about being
Mr.
correct.
Expert. Hold on a second, clown show. I want you to tell me what is a positive Gibbs free energy. Positive delta G. What does it mean? Go right now. Don't you Google it. You tell us right now. Positive delta G. Go.
Just because you have it written down from your internet file doesn't mean you know what it means.
Go.
What's delta G?
You pretender clown.
I don't remember.
You're out.
You've got it clear. What's delta G?
Changing Gibbs, the Gibbs cycle. I don't remember. I can't remember enough to give you a definition.
Well, there is no Gibbs cycle, you friggin' clown, and we can hear you typing in the background. You're out of here.
So
There is a Gibbs cycle. What are you talking about? There is a Gibbs cycle. Of course there is.
So he asked you what Gibbs free energy was, and you don't know what delta G is, but you're telling us that we don't understand the second law of thermodynamics, correct? Hello.
Don't worry. Yeah, you'll be saying hello till the cows come home. Ain't gonna work. So let's move on.
Well, it's just amazing. You know, someone has to read out that he's basically smearing us in the back chat, saying we don't understand the second law of thermodynamics. You put him to task, and immediately he's like, I can't remember.
Gibbs cycle. Gibbs cycle. You freaking pretender clown. Tired of your nonsense. You freaking Milli Vanilli. That's what you are. You're a Milli Vanilli. We already know it. You come back with the same stupid arguments every time. I'm sick of it.
What's the rinse and repeat? That's it, isn't it? Rinse and repeat. And with that, I'll say if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering stream, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live on Nathan Oakley, then this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Massive shout out to Dal West Watson, who smashed the super chat towards the end there. Says Nathan Thompson wants to join. There is a link below all of these live shows if you did. So if you want to join on the Discord server, feel free, Nathan Thompson. Another massive thank you to all of today's debating panel for making this live show possible. As I say, stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley 1980. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!